Smolder's nerf sent him to the Shadow Realm, Diana's popularity is soaring, and Karma's mid lane dominance is no more. My name is Joshua Joshi Howard, welcome to patch 14.6, and let's talk about how the recent patch has changed League of Legends. In the top lane, Chogath experienced some small buffs this patch to one of the most impactful abilities in the game, Feral Scream. Because of this, he's seen some small wins this patch as he's not quite as abusable in the early game as he used to be. We're looking at about a 1% increase in Chogath's win rate. It's nothing to write home about, but it is something. On the flip side, Gragas nerfs are hurting him the most in the top lane, where he's fallen several percent. Top lane Gragas is very reliant on building flat mana, and these nerfs hurt his reliability early game quite a bit. But maxing Q first is still the most consistent way to play him. Some of my most played champions ever, Ornn, Shen, and Sion, yes, I'm that guy, all received some small buffs this patch to their damage, to their durability, it doesn't matter. However, in terms of win rate, they've made hardly any difference as they've had a number of issues come about by the stronger AD carry itemization. Gallo received a lot of changes on this patch and is currently experiencing growing pains as players try and adjust their playstyle to be more focused on his passive. As a result, his win rate is down a touch. Players rushing Lichbane are still finding success, and I'm expecting his win rate to normalize a little higher than where he's sitting at right now as Gallo mains get more experience with his changed kit. At the same time, Riot has gotten tired of Karma dominating the mid lane and being triple flexed in professional play. So, they've targeted her ability to pump out damage and it's having a larger effect on her win rates than we had initially expected. In mid lane, her win rate is down over 3% and she's fallen from S+ all the way down to D in our tier list. Now, Lignance is still fine, but you could also try building Luden's Companion if you want a chance at reliving Karma's former glory days. Diana's pick rate has doubled in the jungle, and players are clearly excited to test her out after the buffs. In-game, Diana now clears the jungle several seconds faster and just feels much smoother to play. It's resulted in a 2 to 3% increase in her win rate, which is something she definitely needed. Brier is another interesting champion who has been dominating in lower elos while still struggling to see play in higher levels where the loss of control is too much for many players to find success with. Riot have tried to balance this out in 14.6 and our stats show that it's done that rather successfully. Brier's win rate has fallen slightly, but high elo players are actually performing better than they were before because of the increased mobility. Figure out how to do your ward hops with this character and you'll start finding more success. Kane lost one of the big things that people were enjoying in his ability to use items during his Q and burst with items like the different Hydras. He's lost some consistency with his Shadow Assassin form because of this, and Dark and Kane did not receive enough of a buff for players to counteract this nerf. Because of that, we're expecting Dark and Kane to probably receive more buffs soon. Rek'Sai has been a bit of a problem child for Riot recently, and just like with my parents, Riot doesn't quite seem to know what to do with her. Rek'Sai didn't receive any quantitative buffs this patch, just bug fixes, so it's not surprising her win rate looks pretty much identical to how it did pre-patch. Volibear's nerfs cuts the difference based on the buff that he received back in 14.4. As a champion who is very based on how much stats he checks, it's not much of a surprise his win rate now sits between where he was originally and where he was last patch. He's still very strong in the jungle at S+ in our tier list, but it's a different story for his top lane play. Volibear will frequently come against stronger champions who can pass the stat check early in the game, and that's probably why his nerf is felt more in the top lane than in the jungle. Senna lost a lot of souls in games where she's farming, and we've seen players flock to fasting. Her win rate in both roles has fallen quite a bit, but it says a lot that her farming win rate is still higher. Not a lot has changed about her actual playstyle though, she's just getting range increases and bonus damage later in the game. Big tip, try getting the bot lane to play mid lane as early as possible so Senna can follow her jungler around and pick up souls from raptors and wolves. This is how your favorite professionals seem to be getting way more souls than you do. As we kind of expected, Smolder's win rates got slaughtered, and Reddit users are complaining that their own team is banning Smolder when you start hovering him because they do not want him on your team. Crucially, the change in stacks means that Smolder is no longer consistently getting his execute online by the time that the Dragon Soul spawns, so you have to fight for an early Dragon while Smolder is still incredibly weak. He's still a playable bot lane if you really enjoy him, but it's hard to say you're not trolling if you're still choosing to play him in solo lanes. ADCs across the board received some pretty large buffs to their damage on this patch, with Infinity Edge, Navori, and both Lord Dominic's Regards and Loyal Reminder all receiving buffs. Simultaneously, we saw Senna and Smolder receive substantial nerfs, so the top dogs have changed pretty considerably. Some of our biggest winners this patch include Jinx, who was sitting just below the surface before and is now potentially one of the most dominant, most versatile AD carries on the patch. Xayah was also already performing well with Rakan, and now that she is no longer being pushed out by the Senna and the Smolder, suddenly becomes a much stronger character to play as well. Most AD carries who are building on hit style builds were already performing well anyway, so Kog'Maw is still one of our top dogs, but the opening of space for AD carries that don't need to scale as much has opened up the meta a lot. Characters like Neela and Samira have really started looking a bit better this patch as well. We're going to have to wait to see exactly how all of this AD carry changes will stabilize over the next couple of patches, but it does look as though we might be back to an AD carry meta. Thank you for watching our 14.6 patch video, and we'll make sure to catch you on the next one.